Hey everyone, this is Matt. Before we get into this week's episode, I wanted to share a quick update. Next week's episode of The Last Laugh will be the final episode of this show. I want to thank everyone listening, whether it's your first time tuning in or you've been here since 2019. So yes, The Last Laugh is ending, but I am now able to announce that something really exciting is coming to this feed starting in early January. Obsessed, the podcast. I am still going to be interviewing the same incredible guests on this new show, but it's also going to be a lot more. More episodes, more pop culture, more of your favorite celebrities. I really think you're going to love it. But for now, please enjoy this episode of The Last Laugh with the great Kathryn Hahn. This is The Last Laugh. I'm Matt Wilstein from The Daily Beast, and today I am so honored to have on this podcast someone who has made me laugh and cry and feel everything in between so many times over the years. You can see her right now on the comedy series of the year, Apple TV's The Studio. Kathryn Hahn, welcome to The Last Laugh.
Oh, Matt, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's so great to have you here. I do really feel like The Studio was the comedy show of the year. So I feel like having you on near the end of this calendar year is great. And it's also, this is one of our last episodes before we're ending this podcast at the end of this year. So it's really lovely to have you. Yeah, we're relaunching with a new podcast, which I'm still going to be co-hosting. But this is we're saying goodbye to The Last Laugh after 6.5 years. So you were one of our final guests on the show, and I've wanted to have you on for so long. So I'm so glad that we're doing it now.
God, talk about the last laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I'm glad to be your last laugh.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I thought we could sort of start just by talking about The Studio because, as I said, I really love the show and excited that we're going to have it back. Not sure exactly when, but hopefully not too long in the future. But starting at the beginning, when did you first become involved in this? When did you hear that it was a thing that was happening that you might be able to be a part of?
I got a call about it I guess mid-year or sometime like April last year. Right? My brain is all time is time is meaningless.
That makes sense. That seems right.
I think so. And I knew that they were making it. It was a go ahead. I think Catherine O'Hara had been cast at that point. And so I mean, I honestly, as soon as I read that she was involved, I was it was going to take a lot for me not to do it because I've just always wanted to work with her. But then it was Seth and Evan, who I'd never had a chance to work before and had always kind of admired. Cannot believe in how the breadth of their producing right now is pretty thrilling. And when I read it, there was like a sophistication to it that I honestly didn't expect. And that just felt so lived in, so specific. And I talked to them because the part of Maya was maybe not as fully baked in the pilot that I had read. And so the three of us, Evan, Seth, and I, were able to really figure her out. She had been kind of an antagonist, but we really tried to, all three of us, make sure that she was also just as culpable and also involved and the stakes were as high for her as the rest of that core group into keeping the studio going and to not feel irrelevant or that, their jobs could be snatched away at any second. And then Maya definitely became, we thought, an interesting way into like a kind of she's the one who's like panicking the most about not staying current. So hence her kind of hype beast ensembles and hair.
Yes, it's fantastic.
Came out of those. Thank you. I love them.
Yeah, it's funny to think about that they maybe felt like the show needed an antagonist when in reality it's like this group of people at this fictional studio are their own antagonists for the entire season.
100%.
That seems like they're the ones who are in their own way. They're not really fighting against anyone but themselves.
I mean, I guess there's always the Bryan Cranston's character who seems like kind of the overlord.
Looms in the background.
The money behind. He's like the Oz behind the Oz. Like that, at the end of the day, he's the one everybody has to kind of answer to. And it's hilarious that it's, of course, that character. But you're right. Everybody really does get in their own way. We always talked about how Maya sneakily is the smartest of the group. Like she's the one who actually knows what will sell and what will work and how. And she's kind of trying to get these idiots to kind of fall in line. She's just, I think, takes herself very seriously and, and her look very seriously.
Yeah, you mentioned her look and her style, which is so unique and it's so funny right off the bat. How involved were you in developing that with the team?
Well, Cameron Lennox, who's our costume designer, and Vanessa and Georgie, who do our hair and makeup, are the four of us really kind of made this bird together. And so I am forever indebted to their creativity and that this sense of play that was like more is more is more. Like Coco Chanel has that like adage of like, put on 4 strands of jewelry and then, before you leave the house, take one off, or maybe it's before the house, put another one on. But Maya's definitely like more is more. We wanted to get as many labels as we possibly could. So it started obviously with Seth and Evan and I talking about it. And then I saw the greatest, first fitting where you just could not believe the labels. And so so Cameron and I really could have gone crazy. And there's a couple times that Seth and Evan were like, we can't see your eyes though. That's the problem. Because we just wanted to have these huge visors and huge bug goggle glasses.
No one's even going to know it's you. Yeah.
No. Well, sometimes definitely the clothes walk into the room before she does, which is fine. Does half the work for me, Matt.
Yeah. It helps you get into character.
Oh, well, yeah, for sure. I mean, there were a pair of pants though that in the Vegas episode they were popular for a second, and I'm like, why? They are a torture device that were hot, like stiletto boots that were attached to a jean. Oh. So that was like the tightest jean. So in order to even use the restroom, you had to pull, like, basically there's no way to take your shoes off for the entirety of the day. I'm not good in high heels. And we were in Vegas. So there was a lot of, and like Vegas is huge. So there's a lot of
walking around,
tromping through. Yeah. My feet were a blister by the end of that day, but you know what? It's for the art.
Yeah. So Maya is the head of marketing at Continental Studios. I'm sure this position is someone who you've encountered over time. Some of the characters on the show seem like they were based on real people. I don't know about this one. Did you have people in mind? Were you thinking about people in your head that you've encountered in Hollywood to play her? Yeah,
there's flavors, Matt, of different human that I've met either in Hollywood or kind of in LA. But I think I led people on to the fact to thinking that there was like one or two specific people that I was, and there wasn't. Like, it really was like a hodgepodge. And as an actor, like I always feel whatever you need is on the page anyway. So she just was who she was with how Seth and Evan wrote her. And, they might have had people, but I certainly did not have anyone.
She takes some huge swings in her job and just the way she approaches marketing. I was curious if you've ever sort of been baffled by how one of your own projects was marketed when you saw after finishing it, how it was being presented to the world. Yeah,
there's sometimes when you see a first trailer and you're like, oh my God, this is exactly represents, I'm so excited for people to see this. And then there's some of them that are good, but don't reflect the movie in any way. Yeah. And they're like, oh, and then there's some that you're so proud of the show or the work and the how it is marked, or the posters are really a big one sometimes in terms of like nailing it. And I've definitely been in shows where the posters have not reflected the meat of the show in any way. Or seems to be going for like lowest common denominator instead of like when you see a good movie poster, I'm always like, oh.
Yeah. That always seems like the challenge with, especially with trailers, like there's a desire to sell the movie or the TV show to the public. Yeah. But then if you are misrepresenting it in such a way that then when they get there, they're seeing something totally different, that can really backfire too, right?
Well, yeah. Sometimes it kind of, I've been in a few where sometimes the trailer looks much better than the actual thing. That might be what you're talking about, where it's always like the upsell is a little like, or that it's like just completely not what the thing is. I mean, I know a bunch of films in which I remember seeing not Girl Fight. I'm so sorry. Jennifer's Body, same director, amazing Karan Kusama. But I remember like that thinking like, oh my God, that was like represented so differently than what the actual film was. And so yeah, it's interesting.
The episode that really stood out to me in the season is episode 7, which is casting, which you're fantastic in that episode. And it's just so funny across the board. It's this episode where you're trying to figure out the cast for the Kool-Aid movie, and everyone on the team is just bending over backwards to not seem racist. And it's just this really tricky needle to thread on a TV show and an episode. But I think you guys really pulled it off. So I was curious your reaction to that episode specifically when you read the script. Like, were you worried at all about how are we going to do this?
Yeah. I remember Seth saying like this was the one he was most nervous about. Like he was like, this could be the end of it. But I knew I was definitely like, oh my God. But I knew that once we got into it, because these characters were so established and they're like nonsense, kind of shallow, kind of just bottom line was going to be in front of everything. And just like their fear, like just their total fear of being canceled or blown up or whatever was like, was so loud that I knew the farce of it was going to really ring true for a lot of people, not just in our business, but like trying to do lip service, you know what I mean? Instead of like really thinking, I thought really clearly resonated.
Probably helpful that it was episode 7 and not like episode 2. Maybe that
we knew these
the
people,
characters
right.
established.
Exactly. I still think it would probably land, but it definitely lands better when you know when you kind of know the motivation of these characters.
One thing that
scrambling.
One thing that I'm not sure you could have known from reading the scripts is how this show was going to be shot with these super long takes, and just it's really unlike really anything we've seen on TV. Except maybe Adolescence, which did it a little bit further.
Yeah, holy crap. That was a different genre, but oh my God, I love that show.
But it must be very challenging for all of you to pull this off as an actor. So I was curious if there's one of those really long takes that stands out for you and sort of how difficult it was to do or just what it took to make it work.
There's 2 examples, I'd say. The first one was maybe my first day on the job. They had been shooting it for maybe like 4 or 5 days, and it was I didn't even really have to say anything. And it was like when he first is pitching Kool-Aid and everyone's sitting around that conference table. When they had pitched me the show originally, he said that the evidence that said that was their plan. They were going to try to do everything in wonders. And I was like, good luck. Yeah. But when I got there, it was actually time to do the scene. It was very intimidating. Like, because they're so brilliant, our incredible camera operator, Mark, who is basically a member of the cast. And he was also kind of edits as the show is going. So like his comedy timing is like, while he's holding like, hundreds of pounds of camera, he really like his shifts are the edits. So like,
yeah, because you can't cut. So it's like they have,
And so the pan can land a laugh like whenever that happens. So it's really a technical, unbelievable technical and emotionally intelligent feat that he's pulling off, and just timing wise. But so I remember I walked in and the conference table had a huge cut out of the middle of it. So you basically were like on a lip, like you had like a lip to hang out, and then that's how he would get in the middle to get everyone's coverage. And first it was like, as soon as the camera would pan to me, I would completely forget my line, because it was like, you were watching everybody and all of a sudden it was like, pressure's on. The pressure would just be on. And I was like, I would freeze. So it took a second for sure to get used to that. Also because your hands had to be in a certain way on the table. If you ever went over it, they would just disappear in the final shot, because they had to like, it's basically like you would kind of be putting your hands into the abyss. So that was something I had to learn. And then the second one, I think, was we had a big, long tracking shot where Mark had to run backwards downstairs.
Oh my God.
And continue all this long walk, running backwards. Like he was running backwards holding a camera. And I just remember being like, do not be the asshole that forgets their line and makes this man have to climb up and down 3 more sets of stairs. But by that point, we were more like, but it really, I think too, Matt, like added to the tension overall that you feel when you're watching to the show. It's because the meta is you're actually watching a group of actors silently freak out that they're going to screw up every take.
Well, the energy of the show is so up. And so again, unlike so many other things. So do you think that was a big part of it too? Like, is that why you were able to sort of keep that energy up, is because you have to?
Yeah, you don't want to let your team down. Like you'd really, and also I think that the music also adds a lot to it. That like that, I think is the Birdman composer, like that incredible churning score, which just keeps it moving. But you don't want to be the one to try a dumb improv and have everybody have to stop and start at the very end of a very long scene. And so I think that helped also with the ensemble, is that like, you know that game when kids play where you have to like keep the balloon in the air and whoever drops it, like whatever dies, falls off into the abyss or something. But that's what it felt like. It was like the stakes were that high because we saw that there was an amazing crew and you're incredible actors and you've been rehearsing it all morning. And so, everybody's already like, and then if you were to, I think that anyway, to answer your question, it really helps with the buoyancy and the pressure of each scene because we were feeling it on the inside for sure. And so the stakes were so high. It was like the actor stake. It was like so many stakes. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. But it was like the actor, there was like the actor stakes and then the character stakes. So it just kept compounding, I think, to this like frenzy in that last episode in Vegas, the Weekend at Bernie's episode, as we call it.
Yeah, that was such a great episode. And I actually rewatched it last night just to kind of refresh myself on where the season ended. And really, this time, really impacted me in the sense that the storyline, the sort of cliffhanger, is that the studio is maybe going to be sold to a tech company in Amazon, which is exactly what we're seeing right now with, Warner Brothers on the verge of being sold to Netflix. So there's definitely, the show was always really great at commenting on what's happening in Hollywood, but this feels even more predictive and on the nose now. Yeah. You've worked with, I'm sure, pretty much all of these big companies at this point in different ways. What was your reaction to that news that Netflix could be gobbling up Warner Brothers? Well,
it's a real wake up call, and it's really scary. And it's also, though, I've done plenty of movies through Netflix, and I know that there's plenty of, like, a couple of incredible experiences that I wouldn't have been able to have because some of those movies are unable to be made anywhere else. And the promise to, have a few weeks at least at the movie theaters, really cannot believe that we're saying this, or cannot believe that that's something to be grateful for, but certainly am. Yeah. And so I'm just hoping that the cream just keeps rising. And so however these shows or movies and things that are really of quality and really have audiences will remain, no matter where it is, will just rise to the viewership top. I'm just really hoping, because what else can you do? You got to be hopeful. It's our business, Matt. What else are we going to do?
I know. There's just, it will mean fewer places to make things, but if they're, I guess the hope is that they keep making a lot of stuff. And the movie theater aspect of it is a big question.
It's a big question, but if it's like really, it is, again, terrifying. But if there's an allowance to keep taking risk and making quality, and filmmakers and creators are able to still have their creative dreams come true. Hopefully there'll be places for it. I'm trying to be hopeful.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the studio is coming back on Apple for season 2. What's the status? What are you guys already shooting it? Have you shot it? Where are you in the process?
We don't start until January, but I know writer's room has been going on since probably Midsommar. But I'm very great movie. But I'm hoping. I've heard a little bits and bobs about where the show's going, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, I think when Seth was spotted in Venice, I believe that was there was a lot of rumors that started about overseas film festival storyline. I don't know if you know anything about that, or if you are hopeful about going overseas.
I would love to.
Yeah.
I have renewed my passport.
Just in case.
But just in case, exactly.
Are there other areas of Hollywood that you feel like are very ripe for exploration, satire, that the show hasn't gotten to yet?
I mean, Matt, like the thing that is so... Nothing in this show has not happened to Seth or Evan. Like they might have pushed the gas a little, like the comedy gas on, of course, like circumstances and situations, but there's everything in the show has happened to the two of them or somebody in the writer's room. So, and it's a bottomless well, as we know ourselves very well, that there are plenty of places that are ripe. I mean, tastemaker screenings. There's just a lot of publicity that Maya has to complete for some of these big tentpole movies that Continental's got on their upcoming slate. There's a lot of actor nonsense. Anyway, a lot of press stuff that I feel like is ripe for the.
Yes.
Because it's an interesting biz. Like that's an interesting side that you get to see.
Yeah, that's my part of it is talking to publicists and Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other just piece before we move on from the studio that I feel like I have to bring up is the guest stars. You talked about the ensemble being very tight and sort of working it out, but then all of a sudden you're bringing in these people to one episode here, one episode there. Martin Scorsese, Ron Howard, Bryan Cranston, who's a little bit more involved that we mentioned. I thought Zoe Kravitz was brilliant on the show.
Incredible. Brilliant. I agree.
So I was curious if there was anybody who sort of surprised you or was fun to work with that you maybe hadn't worked with before that came into the show that really stood out to you.
Well, it's interesting because, a lot of these were big time intimidating directors where in other circumstances the kind of power dynamic would have shifted. And then it was a very interesting thing to see some of these titans a little bit on their the front of their feet, just a little bit like, this is not my milieu, is to be in front of the camera. And so it was weirdly made it that much more fun and interesting to feel like you were kind of, and us as an ensemble was there to kind of make it safe and fun for these like titans. So, I mean, again, he's one of the nicest people in Hollywood, but I had so much fun with Ron Howard. You forget that he was such an extraordinary child actor. And the way that he just threw himself into it was so, I remember Ike and I were like, cause he really just threw himself into that part, and it was so fun to see him get so freaking mad. So yeah, he was terribly exciting. And then I got to work with Zoe and Davey Franco, who's like that whole they're incredible. So
good. Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of the way that SNL cast members talk about when they're 25 on the show and some giant movie star comes in and the power dynamic is totally shifted
totally shifts. Yeah. So it's really interesting. And I mean, you also know as soon as they cut rap, it's going to be back to like, but it was, you're casting a movie, but it was, but while we were like, while we're together in it, it's really fun. And it's very interesting.
So because this is a podcast about comedy, I really wanted to kind of trace a bit of your career through the comedy that you've done, because I feel like you've moved through some of the most important comedy universes of the past 20 years. You've worked with so many people. It's kind of amazing that it took this long for you to work with Seth Rogen in a big way, because you've worked with so many other people in that world. But for me, I feel like it started with 2004 Anchorman, which is, you have a very small part in, but an important part. What did you know about what you were getting into when you were cast in that movie, and obviously didn't know what it would become, but it was ended up being a very big early movie for you. Yeah.
And a very big touchstone comedy wise. I mean, I think things really shifted. with that movie. I had auditioned for the great Allison Jones a couple times for a couple things that didn't happen, and I'm sure you've talked to her or have heard.
I haven't, but I would love to. Yeah, everyone brings her up, so she's amazing. Yeah, she'd
be an amazing person to talk to because she's really discovered so many actors. Like she just sees something in people that I guess the rest of the planet has unable to see. But she brought me in on The Office, I think, and a couple other things. And this again was like I don't even know if I had to talk to them, to be totally honest, because it was such a small part. I had like 4 lines.
Yeah.
And I think it was like it was Jeannie McCarthy was also working on it, the great Jeannie McCarthy. And I think they basically like, maybe I talked to Adam, but it was like no biggie. I mean, I was just kind of in the background. And the fact that I was able to watch these guys work was like going to graduate school for comedy. Like the fact, because I never was in sketch. I wasn't an improviser. Like I kind of always wanted to do serious stuff. Hence my role as a grief counselor in Crossing Jordan.
Oh yes.
My au vieux, but I never saw myself in comedy, especially this big of comedy. And so watching them work on the allowance that they had to go to these incredibly insane places, and how you had the script was thrown out after like the first take, and you were able to I just remember being like, it was like, my brain just exploded with possibility that this could happen. And so then the next big one was a big summer for me because I had gotten Revolutionary Road and Step Brothers in the same summer. And that was like a dream come true. Like
that's two very different movies.
Oh yeah. I mean, complete. Yeah, exactly. You think, but both equally as, thrilling to even be a part of. So the fact that they both happened within a short time, I was like, the bar for my career, I think, was really raised in terms of like what I would be able to, what genres I was able to like slip in and out of. But Step Brothers was a huge one.
Yeah.
That was a big one that I had to audition for many times.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that process like? Was it improvising?
Again, Allison's the best. And yeah, it was completely improvising. And I got to do it with John, which was John C. Reilly, which I think really made a huge difference. I don't think, because he's such an incredible improviser, and him just going like, just being in a scene and watching him dive off was like, okay, we're doing this. So I was able to dive off, and I think that we pushed each other in those auditions to such a way that I don't think if I hadn't auditioned with him, I wonder if I would have gotten the part, honestly.
Your scenes with him obviously are the standout for you in that movie. It's really unbelievable where the places that you go. Was that one where, you were, a lot of that was then improvised in the moment too? Cause it's like you're sort of maybe pushing it further than it is on the page. Yeah. I mean, but you kind of you jump off from the script and you're so far in a different that you barely even remember where you were supposed to be. And that's celebrated. So like I've also been in pieces. I've also been in shows where you improvise, but then you bounce back to the anchors in the script. Like it's all still tied to the script. So you can like go in different worlds, but then as long as you like hit certain goalposts that you're where the scene is headed, what you're supposed to achieve in the scene, how that scene fits into the, carries on into what we've known already about these people and what's in front of us. So I've definitely been in a bunch of those, but the McKay world was the first time and kind of the only time where you're able to just forget about the goalposts and just like fall into like, sounds so true, fall into nothingness, Matt. but you really fall into like a reckless, like, who knows? Yeah, I think Step Brothers is really the pinnacle of those movies as well. I mean, it's just so funny.
Oh my God, it's so bonkers.
Did that movie open comedy doors for you? I mean, probably even more than Anchorman, right? In terms of now people were really seeing what you could do in that comedy space.
It really did. It opened up like, but it's interesting. Like I was talking to my friend about like a career of an actress sometimes, like, I mean, I went from like the quirky best friend, like the comedy, to like the pregnant best friend, to the mom, to the horny pregnant best friend, to the divorced horny mom, to witch.
That's the trajectory.
I was like, is that the trajectory? But yeah, it certainly got me. I did a lot of best friend parts for a second there, which I'm forever grateful for. But it definitely went from that to like a bunch of really fun parts in kind of maybe traditional rom-coms or a little more like, I mean, treasured rom-coms. I'm like, love them, but it was definitely a little more staid than maybe the Adam McKay world.
Yeah, I think you could have kind of gotten a little bit more stuck in that best friend rom-com role had it not been for something like Step Brothers. But then you're in Parks and Rec, which I'm sure is one of the things that you're most recognized for. Jinx.
But it really is. It's like, I think still to this day, it's the thing I guess Agatha now, but it was like, but still, people really freaking love that show. It's so exciting.
And of course, that was also with Adam Scott, who you were, worked closely with in Step Brothers. So there's sort of like, it's interesting how all of these projects, there's like overlap in the same people, involved. And there's certain people who kind of pop up throughout your career like that.
Well, good people too. Like, I mean, Adam was he and his wife are like some of our closest friends. And so to be able to like watch, like we kind of grew up together a little bit in this biz. And so to see his like unbelievable success makes my heart swell. I just have always known how freaking brilliant he is. So it's very exciting.
And then sort of, going into this other comedy world, I think with Joey Soloway with Afternoon Delight, which I think was sort of like your first real lead role in a movie. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. That was definitely my first.
How did that, feel at the time? Did that feel like a big jump in terms of, I mean, it's a small movie, but it's a big role
That was total turning point in the way, again, like Step Brothers, it had a very similar quality and that it was very improvised. The lights were all set up already, so you didn't have to hold for lighting. We kind of existed in this space, and our amazing DP, Jimmy Frona, kind of caught us in we didn't have to do like normal coverage. And I wasn't the first I wasn't the first choice. Someone else had been cast and then had to fall for various reasons, couldn't do it. And so I was, I think I'd always been on Joey's mind, but I think that the money people were not sold. So it took us a hot second, but I was really, really transformed a lot of us performance-wise and work-wise into like a new possibility. And that, again, was something that wasn't strictly a comedy. So in that same way that summer of Step Brothers and Revolutionary Road happened, it felt that way, but in like a part. Like I was able to, because there was like that delicious blend of which is my favorite of comedy and drama. So, and it's really a hard tone to find, like, to in a scene be going from one to the other is always like tonally my sweet spot.
Yeah, I think, and you really found that in
wise. Yeah,
in Transparent and I Love Dick as well, which were two shows that I absolutely loved.
Oh, Matt, thank you.
Yeah, and those were both for Amazon, which I was thinking about. Well, talking about when we were talking about sort of the industry. Both feel like shows that Amazon probably wouldn't make now. They were very like of their time, and really great shows. But it feels like maybe doesn't fit with where Jeff Bezos and Amazon have ended up now. So it was kind of amazing that those shows got made when they did.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that Transparent was the show that put Amazon as a creative engine on the map. It's crazy. And I'm so with you. It's strange to think, to like look at that in the rearview mirror is really like who would have thunk it? And I think for I Love Dick also, we were looking out for a second season at the same time that there was a lot of, internal, handing over of the guard. And so I think we kind of got lost in the shuffle. And I think that show, I am so proud of that show. I think that I Love Dick was ahead of its time in a lot of ways and spoke to a lot of things about just being a person, human on the planet. And I loved that experience. And with Rabbi Raquel, like both of those experiences, all three of them, and with Rachel in Afternoon Delight. Joey Soloway wrote some spectacular parts for people to play, and I hope they continue.
Yeah. Do you feel like that genre of blending comedy and drama is harder to come by? Are people like sort of looking for things that are really solid or a big idea in one direction, or, you know, the studio, which is really great, but is broad comedy? Does it feel like that's more what's getting made now?
Gosh, I have no idea. I know that like the studio, as broad as it is, wouldn't work unless the actual stakes were as high as they were.
Right.
And if you didn't know the people from the inside, and I think there is a little sadness in the studio.
Mm-hmm. Sure,
especially with Mad, everybody, like Ike, everyone has like a little bit of a sadness inside, which is, I don't know what that says about our business, but I think that that's for real. And I don't know, like, I know what you mean. There's a lot of, seems like an absence of nuance, but then you watch certain things and it's like right there. I mean, I think it's a little bit harder to find stuff, but there's so much beautiful art being made, film and TV wise, that really are a blend of the two. So I don't know. I feel like it's definitely, I feel nourished when I watch stuff right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, of course, all of this kind of led up to WandaVision and then Agatha All Along, which I know you've described as your favorite part that you've ever played, this character.
I love her.
And that's obvious, and that's sort of a totally different genre for you, but I'm curious about how you sort of brought yourself to that role, to those projects, finding ways to be funny within this huge operation system, you know, all of that. What was that like for you?
Well, again, I feel like I was able to slip into a corner of the Marvel universe that was unique, and kind of the expectations were maybe not as high as for some of the feature films. And so even with WandaVision was the first show out of the gate with Disney Plus for Marvel. And so, and we weren't even supposed to be first. I think it was Falcon and the Winter Soldier was supposed to be before us, and there was like a scheduling situation. Mm-hmm. And so I think the expectations were like, you know, WandaVision was this weird stepsistery, like little off the beaten path, like other side of the tracks kind of show for Marvel and because of that, I didn't feel that pressure, I guess, walking into it. I just felt the part and loved her. And Matt Shackman, our director, and Jack Schaefer, the writer, were like so encouraging and didn't feel precious or like hand wringing at all about it. It was just having like fun. And I mean, Lizzie and I made each other laugh so much, and so did Paul's. So like, I just think that that alchemy of that just let us just take a ton of risks, because again, there was not a lot of Big Brother. And I felt that same way with Agatha. Like there wasn't really like, we kind of were left to our own devices. Like they believed, like, you know, Kevin believed very much in that part and in Jack. And that being said, we were still able to like, really, we kept feeling we got away with a lot. Mm-hmm. But obviously he was down with all of it and really supportive of all of it. But I'm so proud of that. So proud. So yeah, in terms of like finding, you know, she's got a lot of layers, Agatha, and I feel like she is my favorite to date, because I've been able, just in that one human being you play, she's an actor. I mean, she's a performer herself. So I've been able to, I feel like in playing Agatha, I've been able to like, you know, play an actor with a giant breadth of ability. Yeah, like so stupid, like singing, dance, like all of it was just like an actor dream come true. Yeah, well, if Witch is the end of the trajectory, I guess you got a good one to play. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
But what comes after that? What's
what's
next?
Hill, Matt. No, I don't know. There's so many things. Like, I'm so excited for season 2. I'm so excited for like whatever the future. I'm so excited just to see. I'm kind of growing up alongside all these incredible filmmakers and women creators, and so we've kind of like grown up together. So I'm really excited to see how they continue to filter the planet and filter their experience of being a human being. And so, yeah, there's nothing but like openness. Is
there a type of project or something that you've always wanted to do that you feel like you haven't been able to yet?
No, I mean, whatever it is, it's like whatever it's supposed to be. I really love horror. I'm a huge horror fan.
Oh yeah.
I love horror films. It's like my favorite, but, so that would be real fun. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. I have no idea. Whatever it is, I'd love to go do a big swing comedy, and I'd love to do another like small, whatever it's supposed to be. Yeah, my son is in school, just started college, so I've been kind of like nice to lay low and kind of be available to him, although he doesn't need me at all. So yeah, it's been chill and open.
Hey guys, I'm excited to tell you about Inside Trump's Head, a new podcast from The Daily Beast, hosted by Trump biographer Michael Wolff and the Beast's resident provocateur Joanna Coles. 3 times a week, Michael and Joanna unpack what's really going on inside the mind of the world's most unpredictable man, Donald Trump, bringing you unflinching access and insight you won't find anywhere else. If you've ever wondered what the hell is Trump thinking and who hasn't, you don't want to miss these conversations. Subscribe for new episodes every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on YouTube, and the next day on your favorite podcast platforms. So now it's time for our segment on the show called The First Laugh. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions about firsts.
Oh, God.
Starting with the first piece of comedy that you remember making you laugh really hard as a kid growing up.
My dad was a huge John Candy fan, and I can't remember what it was, but there was a movie in a cabin. Does this make sense? He was like an outdoorsy. Is it
the Great Outdoors, I think?
I think it was The Great Outdoors, yeah.
I just watched that documentary from that Colin Hanks made about John Candy, so I'm fresh in my mind.
I have not seen it yet.
Yeah, it's great, yeah.
My dad's favorite actor.
That was the one that got you early on, John Candy?
Yeah.
What about the first time that you knew that you were funny, that you had the ability to make other people laugh?
I was in kindergarten and I played, I talked about this before, but I played a psalm book in my St. Anne school, which I literally had like I don't know if that was the first time I made people laugh. I played the Tin Man. No, you know what? I'm going to take that back. I played Annie in a production of Annie when I was way too old, and I didn't have I just wore a full-on Bozo the Clown wig because I couldn't. Like, it was just in a Catholic school. So it was just a Bozo the Clown wig and my friend's Laura Ashley dress. And I remember the Sandy was played by another freshman in like a mascot dog costume. And I started definitely hamming it up once I heard laughs that were unintended, but I definitely started hamming it up.
I'm sure you did a ton of auditioning when you were starting out. Was there a first big audition for a role that got away, or an audition that didn't go as expected, or just something that stands out from early on?
Oh my God, there were
auditioning?
So many. I mean, I think The Office was one of those ones that you're like, And Jenna Fisher was the only person that ever should have played that part, and she's amazing in it. But I definitely remember the stakes were very high because of I'd seen the British one, and I love Greg Daniels and Mike Schur. And so that was one that you were like, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please.
Did you get to the point where you were working with other actors or anything? Because I know there was they were pairing people up and doing all that.
They did pair me off. I can't remember who I was paired off with, but it was like it felt to me like it was tantalizingly close, and I probably was not. I feel like Jenna had been cast understandably way before.
You mentioned, the early rom-coms that you did. I think the first big one for a lot of people was How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
That's my first movie.
That's your first movie, yeah. What do you remember from that experience of being on your first movie?
Oh, I mean, I remember Kate was kind of the first movie star that I had ever been around. And I just
Kate
remember
Hudson,
being Kate Hudson, who is just a beam of light. I can't wait to see her movie, by the way. It looks incredible. And I just remember like, she's a movie star. Like the molecules in the room would shift when she walked in. It was like, I had never been around that energy before, like that star energy. And also to know that star energy was so sweet. And so we became such good friends. But I remember that experience. I remember BB Newirth, who played our boss. And I couldn't believe that I was in a scene with her. And I remember, I just remember how we stayed in we stayed in this place called the Sutton House in Toronto, which became known as the Slutton House, not because of anything I did, Matt, but it was a kind of a rite of passage to stay in this place. So I felt very, like I couldn't believe I was in that. I just couldn't believe that I would be watching credits and see my name in credits at the end of a movie. That was like, nuts.
Was there a moment or a story when you felt famous for the first time or got recognized or just realized that you were a person that people knew?
Yeah. And I think it was for Parks and Rec. I'm sure that there was times earlier than that, but when Parks and Rec really started hitting, and maybe it was off the air and people started watching it again, that was a huge, not huge, but for me, it was like a teeny bit of a shift. During WandaVision, which was like a big one, just because that show was so big, I didn't see anybody. So I was, it was during COVID. Yeah. So I would walk out in a mask on and so that was weird when we first started being able to see people again, because it had been such a long time since the show was out that it was weird to have recognition like that long after it.
Yeah. Yeah. When you look back at your career, is there anything that you said no to at the time that you now think maybe I should have said yes to that one?
No, because it all kind of unfurled exactly the way it was supposed to. And if I said no to anything, it was to be with my kids. And so I would never change.
You can't feel bad about that.
No.
On the flip side, anything you said yes to that you now kind of wish you'd said no to?
A couple things for sure. Definitely a couple things that took me away from my family for reasons that were not ultimately that satisfying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what they are. No, I'm kidding.
Do you have a story about the hardest you ever laughed on a set? You've worked with some pretty funny people. What stands out as the hardest you ever laughed in a scene or getting through something?
There used to be something called room tone, that at the end of the scene you had to be deadly quiet so that the sound was able to catch like the tone of the room underneath the dialogue. And that's a very serious business, and you have to be really quiet. And Paul Rudd, who would not be embarrassed at me telling this story, we were doing room tone on Wanderlust, and he cut the loudest fart that you have ever heard. And then he blamed it on me. Like while we were doing it, he did it and ran away and said it was Kathryn. So it took me a while to go around the crew and say, in fact, that was not me. In fact, now I feel like I'm finally going on the record and say that was not me.
That's very funny. That's a great movie too.
But I was crying. It's a great movie. I love that movie so much. And still, again, an ensemble that I would go to bat for. I love them so much.
You've at this point fully embraced the Mother Hahn persona, and to the point where I think it's your Instagram handle as well.
I don't know what I was doing.
Do you remember the first time you became aware of that and what your reaction to it was?
No, I didn't know what was. Honestly, that was the handle that came up. And my daughter kind of told me my daughter she was the one who guided me through the Instagram process. I, of course, had known what a mother was. Yeah. I had seen the genius Maya Rudolph on SCTV. That's hilarious. On SNL. And so I knew, of course, I knew kind of what it was. And so I knew that me calling myself that was going to be tongue in cheek for sure. But I wear it with pride as long as they'll let me.
Do you have a story or a memory about the first time you met one of your really big comedy heroes, just someone who you looked up to, maybe growing up, and just what it was like to meet them for the first time?
I mean, there are so many heroes that I feel blessed enough to say I've met. I remember meeting, this is the one that comes to mind, is Jennifer Coolidge in a porta potty bathroom for some Hollywood party. And she must have thought, I mean, clearly I was acting just like a normal fan, but I could barely get a sentence out. I was she was just trying to wash her hands. And I was like, I was very, very difficult for me to explain how much her work has impacted me as a performer, and what a genius I think she is.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. The last question that we ask on the show, is there a story or memory from your career that makes you laugh now, but really was not funny when it happened?
Oh my gosh. Okay. When I first started acting in New York after school, I missed my grandma's 80th birthday party so I could do a play in the East Village in Alphabet City. And I remember kind ofly that the lead of the show, her name was Avocado Pitt.
Oh,
I'm sure it doesn't go by Avocado. If she does, incredible name. But I remember I had a very small part in it, and I had to ride a tricycle around, and some of the actors forgot their lines at the beginning of the play as I was backstage. It was on my grandmother's birthday. And it was one of those plays where you had to you couldn't do it unless a condition of being in the play is you had to have 14 paying friends come and watch the play.
Oh, yes.
And the older gentlemen who were at the beginning of the play, and one of them forgot their lines, and instead of just starting where they were, they kept going back to the beginning of the scene, 3 times. And so I felt like I was in a Waiting for Godot nightmare as my grandmother was celebrating her birthday in Cleveland, Ohio. Aww. And so now I can laugh about it, but I was on the tricycle waiting to go on. What is my life? Just swimming in debt, just so much college debt behind me. Anyway, sleeping friends in the audience.
But as you said, each thing leads to the next thing, and maybe you wouldn't be here without that tricycle roll.
I know. Matt, I don't think I'd be here talking to you if it wasn't for the tricycle and for the amazing Avocado Pit.
Well, I'm so glad that you were here and are here and everything that you do. I'm such a big fan of your work, and I can't wait to see everything that you do next and the next season of The Studio. I'm so excited for that. So people can check out the first season right now, streaming on Apple TV. Kathryn Hahn, thank you so much for doing this.
My absolute pleasure. This hour flew by.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.